Hello. This video is just another vlog about what I've been doing lately. So I went to an event called Angels in the Liturgy. It was put on by an Orthodox church here in my city, and it was good. It was pretty good. I learned a little bit right away, mainly that there are many gods, but their purpose is to get you to worship the Father Almighty, like the Most High God. And I didn't actually really kind of know that before, because I was sort of worried, really, about worshiping other things. Not really worried about that, but I was kind of worried because I listen to these books, or I listen to other things on consciousness and stuff, and specifically Stalking the Wild Pendulum by Itzhak Bentov I've been listening to. And he, in that book, so he's talking about consciousness, and he's talking about how there's levels of consciousness, and then other things have consciousness, and that there's gods of the water or gods of the rock or something. That's the part I got to halfway in, and it kind of worries me hearing stuff like that, because I try and stay away from all stuff that's demonic, occult, devil worshipping. And so I was kind of worried when I was hearing that stuff. And then so I turned it off, and then I went to this Angels in the Liturgy event, and the guy who was doing the presentation was Father Deacon someone, and he says he has a PhD, but he's actually quite humble, and I can tell just by listening to him that he's being really as precise as he can with what he's saying, and trying to say things in a way that's truthful, and as best as he can. And I appreciated that, and I was listening to the event, and so I learned that that was really early in. And actually, I really like hearing about angels too. Angels are messengers. That's what the word means. From Greek, I think angelos means messenger. And he didn't really say this, but I kind of knew this already. I just knew it. But he was kind of asking about people were starting to think about angels, and what is an angel, and stuff like this. Well, if it's a messenger, or if an angel is a messenger, what message are they giving? They're giving them a message from God. And what is that other than something that's flowing from God through an angel? And so I've been learning, I've been reading the Bible, and I'm on Judges now, in the middle of Judges somewhere. I just got to the story of Samson, and there's angels that talk to different people. They're called theophanies, I believe, but it's in the Old Testament. They basically, I think a theophany means an embodiment of God, or embodiment of the divine, something like this. But an angel is that, and in the Old Testament it's represented where somebody, or somebody will get a visit from an angel, and it's it's like a person, but it's an angel. And we even hear this in the tomb of Jesus, when they go to check the tomb of Jesus, and the spices are gone, and there's Jesus's body is gone because he rose from the dead. He left, and there's two men standing there, clothed in dazzling apparel. Those are two angels. And then in the Old Testament, an angel visits Gideon, And there's other examples. There's actually a lot of examples of angels, but yeah. So it's nice to learn about them a little bit, and I really liked the presentation. I would go to another one in a heartbeat. I asked if I could join the book club. He's got a book club and a Bible study. And I asked if I could join. This part is like I would love to go to that. But another thing about this event, so the socializing aspect, because I have like terrible social anxiety, to the point where I feel like I'm gonna cry. It's so horrible, you know. But anyways, I was there, and some people talked to me, or I kind of talked to some people too. Like, it kind of depends on who initiates the conversation and who responds, right, in life. But I talked to some people, and then during the presentation, and it was fairly packed in there. It was a medium-sized room, and must have been like 40-50 people in there. And they asked, like, at one point during a break or after a break, because it was like a 5-hour event, they said, who here came from Google, like, who we spent money on Google ads. And I raised my hand, and I was the only one. Everybody looked at me. I was like, I didn't actually really react. I just kind of like raised my hand, everybody looked at me. But so that was tough, like, I guess talking about a moment of sort of putting myself out there, however you want to call it. But I did that, and then he was going on about an image of Jesus appearing in the burning bush. So some medieval painter, or I don't know, early first century, or sorry, early first millennium, or medieval, I don't even know when it was, but kind of looked medieval painting, depicted Jesus in the burning bush, because in the Bible, God reveals himself to Noah, or not Noah, I think Noah too, but to Moses through a burning bush. And then so there's a depiction of that event, but who is in the bush but Jesus, a picture of Jesus. And so the father deacon was up there with his slides, and he's kept asking this question over and over again. He's like, why was Jesus in the burning bush? Why was Jesus in the burning bush? Why would Jesus be in the burning bush? Like, does anybody know? Like, and I was like, if he would have moved on, I wouldn't have said anything, but because I didn't know if it was a rhetorical question, when people are, talking or having a monologue or whatever, a presentation, sometimes they do that, right? They just ask a question and then they answer it themselves. It's called rhetorical, right? It's to prove a point. But he kept asking and he didn't move on, really. And so I raised my hand, and someone's like, oh, there's a question over there. And I said, no, it's an answer. It's because Christ is the first and the last. Because I knew it the whole time. I was like, yeah, don't you know? And like, I didn't know why he kept asking, because I was like, does he know? Is it kind of rude to say? Is it like whatever? But I just like felt compelled to, so I raised my hand and I said, because Christ is the first and the last. And that's all I really got out. I could have expanded on that for sure, but he kind of like acknowledged it and said, yeah, Christ is the first and the last, the Alpha and the Omega, and he kind of kept going. But I mean, that is the answer to why Jesus was in the burning bush. And to explain it further, the reason is God reveals himself to Noah, and then Noah says, what do I say to these people when they ask who sent me? Because God, Yahweh, gives him these instructions to go tell the people, the Israelites. And Moses is like, who am I? Like, I don't even speak very well. Like, what should I tell these people? And God says, tell them that I am that I am sent you. In some translations, like, I am who I am. This talks about identity, so the identity of God. And that is the identity of God, is being or is or I am. And it's like ever-present consciousness over everything. That's kind of a rough way to put it, and it's kind of like what when we talk about levels of consciousness in that book by Itzhak Bentov, Stalking the Wild Pendulum. That's like the highest level. If you look at David R. Hawkins' map of consciousness, that's the highest level. It's is, and the experience is ineffable. So you can't really describe that experience, how it feels to be God, because obviously we don't know. Like, we can't really know until we become reunited with God through sainthood or through after we die, judgment. If we go to heaven, then we would know, right? And it's above every other level. So it's like above love, above peace, above joy, above everything is this is level, and it's an ineffable experience. So anyways, God tells Noah tells Moses, tell them that I am sent you. That's how you describe me. That's how they will know that I sent you. And then later in the Bible, in the New Testament, Jesus is talking to all these Jews and telling them, like, if you were truly from God the Father, you would love me, for I am from God the Father. And the Jews hated him, and they kept like criticizing him and saying, like, well, where did you get your authority from? Who gave you the authority when our fathers, Moses and Abraham, who God gave the authority directly? You know, these are the descendants of the Israelites during Moses' time. And so what does Jesus say to them? He says, very truly I tell you, before Abraham was, I am. So he's saying that that's him. In the burning bush, who gave instructions and covenant to Moses is Jesus. Because Jesus is the same, but he's also distinct, and that's the mystery aspect, the divine mystery aspect. A lot of people cannot wrap their head around it, and it takes a ton of faith to begin, because it's a divine mystery. And a better way to describe it, though, and because I'm not the only one who's thought about this, and I just learned this listening to Jay Dyer. He's an Orthodox speaker or apologist, but he's very intelligent. He's on YouTube, and he's saying that we worship the Father through the Son and in the Holy Spirit, and it's called perichoresis. And perichoresis means a mutual indwelling. So okay, I don't totally know how to describe it much better other than to say that it's a vibrational thing. So this is like when you're talking about consciousness, when you're talking about reality, you know, what's going on around us, it is vibrational in nature. Sound is vibrational in nature. And this is also why Jesus is the Word, and in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and God was the Word, is because it's vibrational. Okay? Sound is a vibration. You get it into your ears can interpret it to mean something. Well, it's the meaning part of it that's really important. So At higher levels of vibration, higher frequencies or higher levels of vibration, Itzhak Bentov describes this really well in that book, The Stalking the Wild Pendulum. I believe there is sort of this like mutual indwelling, and it is like a divine mystery because you can't really describe it much better than up to a certain point, just to say like the Holy Trinity. But anyways, that's the answer. So that's why I told this priest, I said, or this father deacon, I said, because he kept asking, why was Jesus in the burning bush? Why was Jesus in the burning bush? It's like this whole room of people. And I said, I have an answer. It's because Jesus is the first and the last. He was, is, and is to come. That's what that means, right? So, just as God is eternal, Jesus is eternal. Jesus was there at the beginning. He will be there forever. That's how that works. Okay, and then other points I want to make about... actually, I have some other important points here. But first I will say that I really liked going there because, at first I was really nervous. Like, I was really nervous, I just have terrible social anxiety. I have a terrible time socializing with people for some reason. Well, I guess I kind of know the reason. Childhood trauma and a whole bunch of other things going on in life. Broader societal narrative-wide. But when I went there, there were some friendly people. And at one point... and I have to say this, very important. Mostly everybody in there was white. And there was also young people in there. And specifically there was like young men in there. And so this was just a good thing because it's got to do with cultural cohesion. So white people have been attacked nonstop for a long time, and the last it's been getting way worse in the last 10 years, but it's way more blatant. The Economist put out an article that said that many are saying that now is the time to have white babies under J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. But is this just an insidious plan to make a whiter America? Guess who wrote it? A Jew. It's like, they hate white people. They literally describe it as an insidious plan to make a whiter America. And it's like some people still don't understand. They're still on the fence about what's going on. That's all psychological warfare against white people. And basically I go to any church I go to, it's all old people, old white people, and there's no young people, barely any, or it's all old people and then some type of immigrants, like Filipinos or somewhere from Africa usually. And it's like they do everything they can to make white people feel bad about or guilty or something about wanting a church to be filled with white people, wanting a city or a town that was white to be white, continue to be white. And it's because white Christian Western countries are being destroyed by Jews, by these massive projects to basically brown or kill the country, essentially, to make it more controllable. And the thing is that a lot of these immigrants and brown people don't fully understand, and it's because of in-group bias, is that they're being used, they're being pit against each other, and it's who's pulling the strings? It's Jews, and who do Jews work for? The devil. That's what Jesus actually said after he said to them, very truly I tell you, before Abraham was, I am. And then he said, you do not recognize me because you're from your father, the devil, who was a murderer in the beginning and a liar or a deceiver. And that's like the only thing I can really think of when I think like, why do Jews hate Christians and white people so much? Because they actually worship a deceiver. Like, why are they such deceivers? Because they worship a deceiver. In the Talmud, and I'm not just like making that up, like that's like, what do they call it, a trope or whatever? I'm not just making that up, that Jews lie. It's like, in the Talmud, it says, you cannot give a gift to a Gentile or a non-Jew, but you can give them a gift if it's to ingratiate yourself with them in a business relationship. Did people not realize that's like deception? That's like, you know, that's not goodwill, that's not good faith, that's not anything but to like get ahead or advance your own group. And then it's like, that's like one example, there's tons. But anyway, so my point about that was, it was nice to be in a church or a place where there's other young people, and specifically like young white men. And so I was talking to a couple people, and everyone was really nice. And at one point, someone came up to me to introduce themselves, and I was talking to them, and then someone else joined the conversation, and then someone else came in. And this is kind of a big deal for me. I know it sounds silly, but I cannot remember, it's been years since, I cannot remember the exact time. It's been years since the last time that I've had a conversation with like multiple other white men around my age. I cannot remember that. Like, and it's like a good feeling too, because it's like, it's not like competitive really, or I don't know how to put it exactly, because it's not always good vibes like that when you're talking to a bunch of men, but a lot of times it can be. And I don't know how exactly to put it, but it's like, it just kind of like works very well, and it's like it's like kind of relaxing in a way. So anyway, yeah, it was nice. It was a nice experience. I haven't experienced that in a long time. You know, I live in Canada. It's like, this country's like totally getting screwed. But yeah. So, and it's funny too, because it's like, if I were to replace that, if I were to mix around some of the terms in that statement I just made, and say like, oh, for a Hindu, it's really great for them to have a space with other Hindus who are from India, that they can all spend time and have cultural, a cultural enrichment or something, cultural center. If I said, oh, it's really great for it's really great for Jewish people that they can have a place where other Jewish people can go, and they can spend time with people who are like, who share the same beliefs and values. What do I say? If I say, oh, it's really good for white people that, you know, young white men can have a space where other young white men can join and have a cultural moment. It's like, people kind of hate that. It's like, holy cow, man. That's the point we're at, where it's like, they write articles, they say, is this just an insidious project to make a whiter America for white people to have babies? And they're like deadly serious about that. What if you said what if you said that about any other race? Like, if you said in Israel, people are saying that Jewish people should have more children. Is this just an insidious project to make a more Jewish Israel? It's so funny, man. It's so funny. You can't say that shit. You get like hung or killed like at a any university in Canada. Like, that's crazy. Oh, it's so funny though. But it's because people know what time it is. Essentially, by that I mean people kind of know what's good for them. They know if they say anything against the quote unquote minority or whatever, you're done. You're done for. You're fired. You're ostracized. You're blacklisted. You become radioactive. And yeah. Anyway, so geez, I'm having fun making this video. Okay, so okay, so my next point. All right, so I'm a Roman Catholic. I was raised and baptized in the Roman Catholic faith, but I never understood it when I was young. And then I lapsed from it, went way away from it for a long time when I was older. And then I only really came back about 3 years ago when I took 5 grams of ground up mushrooms. I think they were golden teachers. And I had done like a 2-day fast, and then I mixed them with lemon juice. So basically I lemon teched 5 grams golden teachers and took it on a completely empty stomach 2-day fast. And the reason I did this was because I wanted healing, and then I also kind of like I don't know how to put it exactly, but it's not like I really wanted knowledge, but I wanted healing the most. And I kind of like put my hand over the Bible when I took them, but I also had my hand kind of over like some native stuff, like sage or something like that. And I was kind of like asking for, I don't know if I asked for healing and knowledge, I might have, but I somehow thought this was a good idea. And that was a stupid idea. And, but what ended up happening was basically I had like a terrible trip, like the worst trip ever, the kind that just kind of doesn't end, because it feels like I've been kind of like in it it feels like it's like permanent. That's how it kind of feels. Sometimes I kind of feel like I'm out of it a little bit, but a lot of times it kind of feels like permanent. And then I got this sort of sense or whatever during the trip that I was like psychotic, and I was just going to be in like a psychotic reality forever. And so it felt like a curse, kind of like it felt like horrible. But what saved me from the trip was actually Jesus, because so I lost like complete control at one point. My roommates like left the house. I don't know exactly why, but they left the house. I don't think I was like really doing anything like too crazy. I was just in my room, but then they left. And then I went downstairs, and I was just like, the trip would not end. Like I had passed out for a while. I woke up and I was like, this is way too much, right? And I ended up like I screamed like on the floor, and then I was like calling people. And by the way, that scream on the floor is like one of the only times where I felt like I just had to, because I couldn't control how I felt, and it was like an emotion that had to come out. And then, but the house was like empty, and then I was like calling people because, I wanted some help. And I called like my therapist at the time. She wasn't very helpful. I think she was telling me to call like the ambulance or something. I was considering it, and then I called my friend, who I thought was like a good friend, but he wouldn't come help me. He was at work, and he just told me like, it'll be over soon or whatever, and just go take like a shower. And I tried that, it wasn't helping. And then I called my brother, and I was like telling him, come down here, please. Like, I took all these mushrooms, I'm having a terrible trip, please come down here. And he ended up coming down, but it took him a long time. And I was talking to him, and I'm actually grateful he came down. But what I did is I ended up finally, when the trip was like winding down after like, I don't know, 12 hours or something, like 10 hours, 11 hours, I went and I was watching videos of Jesus's life, and that's the only time I felt good. Like, that's the only time I felt protected, safe, okay, stable, was that. Like, so Jesus really saved me. And so that's kind of the main message, is that Jesus saves, really, on a spiritual level, and that's what really matters anyway. But so why did I begin saying that? Oh yeah, okay. So I was raised Roman Catholic, and then that all happened, and then I went to I started going back to church after that. Like, I ended up going to a different province for a job, and my goal was that I'm going to go to church here. And so I went to church there, and there was a lot of problems within the church, but I stayed true to it and kept going. And then now I came back here, so I was like 2 years later, back to my original city, and then I kept going to church, but now I'm going to like different churches, and also I listen to stuff online about faith. And one person I came across is Jay Dyer, and then and he's raising these good points about what's going on with the Catholic Church, and he also talks about orthodoxy. And the thing that I found important is really what it said about is really what has happened since Vatican II. So in 1962, they had this I don't think it's an ecumenical council, but they had like a council meet of like the church leaders, Roman Catholic Church leaders, and called Vatican II, and they did all these changes to the Mass and to other stuff in the church. And one of the things that they've said in Nostra Aetate, I believe, I haven't fully read it, but this is what I've heard is in there, and I'd have to verify for myself, but they said that Christians, Muslims, and Jews all worship the same God, which is false, because Muslims and Jews don't worship Jesus. And as I described before, there's this mutual indwelling. And then in the Bible, it says, Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And so Muslims, they don't revere Jesus as God. They believe that's something called shirk, I think. And then Jews outright hate Jesus. They believe he's burning in hell in excrement. They believe Mother Mary was a whore. They believe that she was raped by Pantera, a Roman soldier, and that's the father of Jesus. And, they say stuff like Ben Shapiro says, Jesus was a rebel who got killed for his trouble. And so the Jews just like totally reject Jesus. They don't worship him. And yet somehow in the Catholic and in a lot of the Christian world, they all think somehow that Jews are like God's chosen people, something about that, and that we should bless Israel, and they believe stuff like this. And it's like no one's told them that Jews hate us. You know, it's like, yeah, so they said in the Mass yesterday, I went to church yesterday, the priest said, and it really bothered me, he said, people of God, which extends beyond Christians. At one point during the Mass, he said, people of God, which extends beyond Christians. And that really bothered me, because I don't really know what he means by that. Does he mean that everyone is equal under God, but that they need to convert to Christianity, and that's how it extends beyond Christians? Because I agree with that other people should convert to Christianity, because Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through him. But he didn't say that. The priest said, people of God, which extends beyond Christianity. What is that supposed to mean? That sounds like something from Vatican II, where they say Christians, Muslims, and Jews all worship the same God. And then, I don't like that. And then in the Vatican, under Pope Leo recently, they open up a Muslim prayer room in the Vatican library, and they say, we just gave the Muslims a rug and a room. What big deal? It's just a courtesy. It's just nice. On Reddit, Reddit sucks. On Reddit, they're like, yeah, it's just called being nice. It's like, you people are stupid or something. Like, you're either deceived or stupid, or I don't know, but do people not understand the faith means something? And then you have the King of England, King Charles, he's sends out an address, he's like, Salam alaikum. It's like, come on, you're supposed to be the defender of the faith. These people are spineless. That's, maybe I shouldn't be so harsh with my words like that, but that's not stuff that Jesus said, that we should be nice, quote unquote. He said, you Jews are the children of the devil. For if you were from the Father, you would love me, for I am from the Father. So, I thought that was a pretty important thing. And actually, I felt really bad because I don't know if I should even say this, but I didn't go up and take Holy Communion because I just wasn't sure if I should at that point. And that's pretty bad, because the Holy Communion is really supposed to represent a uniting with God. This is my body, this is my blood. Take of it and eat. Take and eat of it. And in the Vatican II, one thing that they did, I'm learning this from this book. I'm reading this book. It's called Two Paths: Orthodoxy and Catholicism, Roman Catholic Claims of Papal Supremacy in the Light of of Orthodox Christian Teaching. It's a pretty good book so far, but it's saying that one of the changes that was the worst, or one of the worst changes that they made, was that Pope Paul VI in the 1960s, he changed the wording that Jesus used, which Jesus said pro multis, or for many, talking about the Last Supper. This is for many. They changed that wording in the church service, in the Mass, to say for all. What is that even supposed to mean? That's the question about kind of this watered down or slippery slope stuff. It's what are you actually saying then? Because Jesus said, poured out for many. He didn't say poured out for all. Like, if people follow him, if they repent, they follow him, they beg his mercy, and they walk in his ways, those are the many. Those are the people who are Christians. But for all, that doesn't mean like for Hindus, for atheists, pro-LGBT atheists. That doesn't mean like Muslims, Jews, pagans. You know what I mean? Like, so these things are important, and I don't really get much of a place to talk about them. But anyways, that's where I'm at. So I'm gonna keep reading the book, and I'm gonna keep learning more about what's going on with that. I might attend like an Orthodox service, but to become Orthodox, you have to go through a process. So I don't know if I'll become Orthodox at all, or right away, or what will happen. But I need to learn more, because I don't know enough about the Orthodox Church. I just know that they've tried to preserve things and they haven't changed things, which is good, sticking as much to what Jesus teaches is the best. Sticking as much to the Bible and then the early church fathers, and yeah, so yeah.